The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I pushed the cleaning cart down the polished hallway of Henderson and Associates, my father's company, the place where he was vice president of operations, respected by everyone, feared by most. And here I was, his son, wearing a janitor's uniform with my name stitched crookedly on the chest. It had been 2 months since I graduated college. 2 months since I asked him for a chance to work here. I expected an entry-level position in marketing, maybe finance, something with a desk, something with dignity. Instead, he handed me a mop. "Everyone starts at the bottom," he said that first day, not even looking at me. His office door closed before I could respond. That was the last real conversation we had. Now, every morning at 6, I arrived before the sun came up. I cleaned the executive bathrooms on the 10th floor, scrubbed coffee stains from the break room counters, emptied trash bins that smelled like old takeout and ambition. The other janitors were kind to me. They didn't know who my father was. To them, I was just another kid trying to make it, but the executives knew. I saw it in their eyes when they passed me in the hallways. Some looked away, others smirked. A few even made comments. "Hey, isn't that Harrison's kid? Guess the old man's teaching him a lesson. Tough love, huh?" I kept my head down. I didn't complain. I told myself this was temporary, that he was testing me, that if I proved myself, he'd see I was serious, that I deserved a real shot. But deep down, I wasn't sure anymore. One afternoon, I was on my knees scrubbing the tiles in the 10th floor bathroom when I heard voices outside. 2 men in expensive suits walked in, still talking business. They didn't notice me at first. I stayed quiet, kept scrubbing. "Did you hear about the Reed account?" one of them said, washing his hands. "Harrison totally fumbled it. Cost the company $2 million. The other guy laughed. "Yeah, but he's untouchable. Been here 20 years. The board won't do anything." Still, guy's getting sloppy. Too busy playing power games with his own kid to focus on the work. They left, still laughing. I sat back on my heels, staring at the tiles. My hands were red and raw from the cleaning chemicals. My father had cost the company millions, and no one cared. But me, I was invisible, disposable. That night, I stayed late. The building was nearly empty. I took the service elevator down to the basement to return my supplies. As I walked through the dim storage area, I noticed a door I'd never seen open before. It led to an old file room, full of boxes stacked high, covered in dust. Curiosity pulled me inside. I wiped the dust off one of the boxes. The label read, "Confidential, Executive Contracts 2018-2020. I shouldn't have looked. I knew that. But something in me needed to understand, needed to see what kind of man my father really was. I opened the box. Inside were documents, contracts, emails, and then I saw it, a memo with my father's signature. It detailed a deal he'd made with a competitor, funneling company resources to a shell corporation he partially owned. It was subtle, buried in legal language, but it was there. Fraud, embezzlement. My hands shook as I read. This wasn't just about the Reed account. This was years of deception. I heard footsteps. I quickly closed the box and slipped out of the room, my heart pounding. I made it to the elevator just as a security guard turned the corner. He didn't see me. That night, I barely slept. I didn't know what to do with what I'd found. Reporting him meant destroying him. It meant burning the only family I had left. My mother had passed years ago. It was just me and him now, but he'd humiliated me, treated me like I was nothing. The next morning, I arrived at work like usual. I clocked in, grabbed my cart, and headed to the 10th floor. But when I scanned my badge at the executive floor entrance, the light blinked red. Access denied. I tried again. Red. A security guard approached. "Mr. Harrison, you need to go to the top floor. Executive office. They're expecting you." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "I don't know, sir. I was just told to send you up the top floor. That's where the CEO worked, where the board met. I'd never been up there." My father had never even mentioned it. I took the elevator, my mind racing. Did they find out I was in that file room? Did someone see me? Was I about to be fired or worse? The elevator doors opened to a pristine hallway, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A woman in a sharp blazer stood waiting. "Mr. Harrison," she said with a polite smile. "Follow me, please." She led me through a set of glass doors into a massive corner office. Behind the desk sat a man in his 60s, silver-haired, calm, commanding. I recognized him from company emails. Richard Caldwell, the CEO. "Sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I sat, my hands gripping the armrests. He studied me for a moment, then leaned back. "Do you know why you're here?" I shook my head. He smiled just slightly. "2 months ago, you started working in our maintenance department. Your father put you there." I nodded. "And in those 2 months," he continued, "you've shown up every day, on time. You've done the work without complaint. You've been respectful to every person in this building, no matter their position." I didn't know what to say. He opened a folder on his desk. "I've been watching you." My blood went cold. "Watching me?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Richard Caldwell nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. "You see, your father didn't tell you this, but I specifically asked him to bring you into the company, not as an executive trainee, not in some cushy office job. I wanted to see what kind of person you were when no one was looking." I blinked, trying to process his words. "You asked him to do this?" "I did." He leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk. "Your father thought I was punishing you, and maybe in his arrogance he thought he was teaching you some kind of lesson. But the truth is, I wanted to see if you had integrity, if you had humility, if you were the kind of person this company actually needs." I stared at him, my mind racing. "Why?" Caldwell stood and walked to the window, gazing out over the city. "Because 20 years ago, I started in the mailroom of this company. I worked my way up, step by step. I cleaned floors. I filed papers. I did the jobs no one else wanted, and that's how I learned what this business is really about. People, not power, not status. People." He turned back to me. "Your father forgot that. He became the kind of leader who sees people as tools, as obstacles, as things to be controlled." His voice hardened, "And lately he's become a liability." My chest tightened. I thought about the files I'd seen, the evidence buried in that basement. Did Caldwell know? He walked back to his desk and pulled out another folder. This one was thicker. 3 weeks ago, our internal audit flagged some irregularities in several accounts your father oversees. We've been investigating quietly. He slid the folder toward me. "We found everything." I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I already knew what was inside. "Your father has been embezzling from this company for years," Caldwell said, his voice cold now. "Shell corporations. Falsified contracts. He's stolen nearly $4 million. The room felt like it was closing in. "We're terminating him," Caldwell continued. "Today, and depending on what our lawyers recommend, we may press charges." I sat there, frozen. Part of me felt vindicated. He'd treated me like garbage, and now the truth was coming out. But another part of me, the part that remembered him reading to me as a kid, that remembered him holding my hand at my mother's funeral, that part felt like it was breaking. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. Caldwell sat back down. "Because you have a choice to make." I looked up at him. "You found those files in the basement 2 nights ago," he said. My blood turned to ice. "We have cameras everywhere, son. I saw you go in. I saw you read those documents, and I saw you walk away. I couldn't breathe. You could have taken that evidence and destroyed it. You could have warned your father. You could have used it against him, leaked it to the press, ruined him out of spite." Caldwell's eyes locked onto mine. "But you didn't. You walked away. You came back to work the next day and did your job." I didn't know what to say. That told me everything I needed to know about you, he said. You're not like him. He pushed a piece of paper across the desk. It was a contract. I'm offering you a position, Caldwell said. Assistant to the Chief Operating Officer. You'll be working directly under Susan Delgado, one of the sharpest leaders in this company. You'll learn the business from the ground up, the right way. And if you prove yourself, there's a real future for you here. I stared at the contract, my hands trembling. But you need to understand something, Caldwell said, his voice firm. If you take this job, you're not here because of your father. You're here in spite of him. You'll learn every step. You'll be scrutinized. You'll have to prove every single day that you deserve to be in that room. I swallowed hard. And my father. Caldwell's expression didn't change. He's done. That's not your burden to carry. I looked down at the contract. My father's face flashed in my mind, not the cold, distant man he'd become, but the man he used to be. The man who taught me to ride a bike. The man who told me I could be anything. But that man was gone. I picked up the pen. I'll take it, I said. Caldwell nodded. Good, you start Monday, 8th floor. I stood, my legs shaky, and turned toward the door. One more thing, Caldwell said. I stopped. Your father is going to blame you for this. He's going to think you betrayed him. He might never forgive you. I looked back at him. I know. Caldwell's expression softened just slightly. Then you're stronger than he ever was. I walked out of that office, down the elevator and out of the building. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the parking lot. I saw my father's car still parked in his reserved spot near the entrance. I didn't wait for him. I got in my car and drove home. That night, my phone rang 6 times. His name flashed on the screen each time. I didn't answer. The next morning, I didn't go to the 10th floor. I went to the 8th. I wore a suit I'd bought the night before. I walked into Susan Delgado's office, and she looked up from her desk with a firm, approving nod. Ready to work? She asked. Yes, ma'am, I said. And for the first time in 2 months, I felt like I could breathe. 3 weeks later, I heard my father had taken a plea deal. No jail time, but he had to pay everything back and resign from every board he sat on. His reputation was destroyed. I didn't go to see him, but one night, months later, I got a voicemail. His voice was quiet, broken. I don't know if you'll listen to this, but I need you to know I was wrong about everything. I thought I was teaching you strength, but all I did was show you who I really was. And I'm sorry. There was a long pause. You're better than me. You always were. The message ended. I saved it. I didn't delete it, but I didn't call back either. Because some lessons you don't learn from your father. You learn them in spite of him. 6 months passed, like pages turning in a book I never expected to read. The 8th floor became my world, a world of strategy meetings, financial projections, and decisions that affected hundreds of employees. Susan Delgado was everything my father wasn't. Direct, fair, and genuinely invested in the people around her. You're doing well, she told me one afternoon, reviewing a report I'd prepared on supply chain optimization. Better than well, actually. You have instincts for this. I nodded, accepting the compliment but not lingering on it. I'd learned to let my work speak for itself. The other executives had slowly warmed to me. At first, there were whispers. Harrison's kid, the janitor who got promoted, Caldwell's pet project. But as weeks turned into months, the whispers faded. I proved I belonged there, one presentation at a time, one solved problem at a time. My father's name rarely came up anymore. The company had moved on. The scandal had been handled quietly, the losses recovered, the damaged relationships repaired. It was as if he'd never existed. But I couldn't forget that easily. I still had the voicemail. I'd listen to it sometimes late at night when I couldn't sleep. His broken voice, his apology. Part of me wanted to reach out, to tell him I forgave him. But another part, the part that remembered scrubbing those bathroom floors while he walked past without acknowledgement, that part wasn't ready. One Thursday morning, Susan called me into her office. Her expression was serious. "Close the door," she said. I did, my stomach tightening. Had I made a mistake? Missed something critical? She gestured to the chair. "Richard wants to see you. Top floor. Now." My pulse quickened. "Did he say why?" "No, but when the CEO summons you, you don't ask questions. You go." I took the elevator up, my mind racing through every project I'd worked on, every decision I'd made. What had I done wrong? The same assistant from months ago greeted me with a professional smile and led me into Caldwell's office. But this time, he wasn't alone. Seated across from his desk were three people I recognized from company communications, members of the board of directors. And standing by the window was someone I didn't expect, a woman in her early 30s, dressed in an elegant navy suit, her presence commanding the room. "Come in," Caldwell said, gesturing to an empty chair. I sat, acutely aware of every eye on me. Caldwell folded his hands on his desk. "I'll get straight to the point. We're restructuring the leadership team. Susan Delgado is being promoted to Chief Operating Officer. I felt a flash of pride for her, but confusion about why I was here. That leaves her current position open," Caldwell continued. "We need someone sharp, someone who understands this company from the ground up, someone with integrity." He paused. "We want you to take it." The words hit me like a physical force. "Me? You've proven yourself," one of the board members said, a woman with sharp eyes and silver hair. "You've exceeded every expectation. You're ready for this." I looked at Caldwell, searching his face for any sign this was some kind of test. "I've only been here 6 months. And in those 6 months, you've done what some people can't do in 6 years, Caldwell said. "You've earned this." The woman by the window finally spoke. Her voice was clear, authoritative. "There's something else you should know." She walked toward the desk, and I noticed a folder in her hand. She placed it in front of me. "My name is Victoria Chen. I'm the incoming Chief Financial Officer, transferred from our Singapore office. Part of my job is reviewing historical financial records, ensuring compliance across all departments." I stared at the folder, unsure where this was going. "I found something," she said. "Something that was buried very carefully, but not carefully enough." She opened the folder. Inside were documents, old emails, transaction records, memos. My father's name was all over them. "Your father's embezzlement was extensive," she continued. "But what you don't know is that 3 years ago he tried to frame someone else for his crimes." My blood went cold. "A junior accountant named Marcus Webb discovered irregularities in one of your father's shell accounts. Your father found out and altered records to make it look like Marcus was the one stealing. Marcus was fired, blacklisted from the industry. His career was destroyed." I felt sick. "Marcus tried to fight it," Victoria said, "but your father had power, connections. No one believed him. He lost everything, his job, his reputation, his family." I looked up at her. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because 2 weeks ago, Marcus Webb applied for a position here, in accounting. He's been working odd jobs for 3 years, trying to rebuild his life, and he has no idea that your father's crimes have been exposed." Caldwell leaned forward. "We're offering Marcus his career back, a full reinstatement, back pay, a formal apology from the company. But before we do that, we wanted you to know, because this is part of your father's legacy, and you have a right to understand the full scope of what he did." I sat there, absorbing it all. My father hadn't just stolen money. He'd destroyed an innocent man's life to cover his tracks. "There's more," Victoria said quietly. "Marcus has a daughter. She's 14 now. Because of what happened, his family fell apart. His wife left him. He lost custody. He's been fighting for 3 years, just to see his daughter again. The weight of it crushed me. What do you want me to do? Caldwell's expression softened. We want you to be there when we tell him. We want him to see that the person taking a leadership role in this company isn't the man who destroyed him. It's someone different, someone who believes in making things right. I looked down at my hands, the same hands that had scrubbed floors, the same hands that had signed a contract to start over. When? I asked. Tomorrow, Caldwell said. 10 a.m. I nodded. I'll be there. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marcus Webb, about his daughter, about all the lives my father had damaged in his pursuit of wealth and control, and I thought about the voicemail, the apology. Was it enough? Could any apology ever be enough? The next morning, I arrived early. I wore my best suit, but it felt like armor I didn't deserve. I waited in a small conference room with Caldwell, Victoria, and Susan. At 10 a.m. exactly, Marcus Webb walked in. He was older than I expected, maybe mid-40s with tired eyes and a weathered face. He looked nervous, like he couldn't believe he was really here. Caldwell stood and extended his hand. Mr. Webb, thank you for coming. Marcus shook it hesitantly. I appreciate the opportunity, sir. I know my record. Your record has been cleared, Caldwell said firmly. Completely. We know what happened to you 3 years ago. We know it wasn't your fault. And we know who was responsible. Marcus froze. You know? We know everything, Victoria said gently. And we're here to make it right. Marcus Webb stood there, motionless, as if the words hadn't fully reached him yet. His hands trembled slightly at his sides. He looked from Caldwell to Victoria, then to me. His eyes lingered on me for a moment, confused, searching. I don't understand, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Who was responsible? Caldwell gestured to the chair. Please, sit. Marcus sat slowly, like a man afraid the chair might disappear beneath him. Caldwell slid a folder across the table. 3 years ago you discovered financial irregularities, Caldwell began. You reported it, and instead of being protected as a whistleblower, you were terminated and blacklisted. Marcus's jaw tightened. Harrison. Edward Harrison. The name hung in the air like a blade. Yes, Caldwell confirmed. He falsified records to frame you for his own embezzlement. He used his position to destroy your credibility. Marcus closed his eyes, his breath shaking. I lost everything. My wife thought I was guilty. She left, took my daughter. Victoria leaned forward. We have proof now. You were framed. Harrison has been terminated. And we're offering you full reinstatement with back pay, benefits, and a formal public apology. Marcus stared at the folder, tears welling in his eyes. 3 years, he whispered. I know, Caldwell said quietly. We can't give you that time back, but we can give you your future. Marcus looked up. Why now? Caldwell glanced at me. Because someone found the truth and chose to do the right thing. Marcus followed his gaze to me. You're his son. I nodded slowly. I am. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. And now what? You get to play hero? No, I said steadily. I can't fix what he did, but I can tell you it was wrong. And I'll make sure it never happens to anyone else here. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. I just want my daughter back. I just want her to know I didn't do what they said, Victoria spoke gently. We've prepared a full exoneration letter with all evidence. It will be sent to your ex-wife, your daughter, and any employer you choose. Marcus covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. After a moment, he looked up. When do I start? Caldwell smiled. Monday, if you're ready. Marcus nodded. I'm ready. As Marcus stood to leave, he paused at the door and looked back at me. "I don't forgive your father. I don't know if I ever will." "I understand," I said. He nodded once, then left. Caldwell placed a hand on my shoulder. "This is leadership. Facing the consequences of those who came before you and choosing to do better." I left the building and drove aimlessly, ending up at a park. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus. I just wanted to say thank you for being there today." I typed back, "You don't owe me thanks, but I hope you get your daughter back." 3 dots appeared. "Maybe we both deserved better fathers." I read those words over and over. That night I listened to my father's voicemail one last time, then I deleted it. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need his apology to move forward. Monday came. I walked into my new office. My name was on the door, and I received an email from Marcus. Subject line, "She said yes." Inside was a photo. Marcus smiling, standing next to a teenage girl with his same eyes. His daughter. The message read, "First dinner together in 3 years. Thank you." I printed the photo and put it on my desk because that's what this job was really about. Not the title, not proving I was better than my father. It was about the people, the Marcus Webbs who deserved a second chance, the employees who showed up every day, the janitors I still greeted by name every morning. 3 months later, I saw my father across the street. He looked thinner, older. He saw me too. We stood there, separated by traffic and time and everything that had happened. He didn't wave, he just nodded once, a small, sad acknowledgement. I nodded back, and then I walked away, not out of hatred, but because some chapters close quietly, without resolution. They just end, and new ones begin. I went back to the office, rode the elevator to the 8th floor and got to work. Because I had people counting on me now, and I wasn't going to let them down.